So I'm joined today by my buddy Cyrus. Cyrus and I
So
have known each other, let's see, 2009, 2010. We went to school together at Barry University, Barry
yeah,
University.
right.
And yep, and then we didn't work together after that, but we worked in the same building
Yeah.
when I was a personal trainer at a JCC and he was working with professional athletes with another group that was in the same building.
Yeah.
So Cyrus, thanks so much for chatting with me today, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, John.
Anytime, man. It's good to connect with friends that are in the wellness field, and I just wanted to talk to you today to see what I can learn from you, and maybe whoever's watching this, we can learn anything about your expertise. I know you've done
hmm
a lot in fitness throughout the years, and we need to kind of catch up a little bit too. So I know you've done a lot
Yeah.
of stuff. So what kind of areas of fitness, or what kind of stuff have you been working on lately that's professionally?
Like professionally, I mean, most recently, like last year, I was like training some baseball players. So I was doing a lot of like off-season training for like some guys that are like in JUCO, some guys that are like, going from high school to like, Division 1 or Division 2. And like just still early for them in that stage, before they get drafted or get signed by an agency. So got to like tour a little bit with that. I kind of taken a little break, and so but just generally speaking, I'm just a guy that's into fitness, and whether it involves like sports performance or just dieting, that's just really what I care about, like fitness.
I remember you really being into dieting. You when we first met,
Yeah.
you were really going after like
Some
a lot of
insane
education
diets.
with that. Yeah, I remember that. And you've been on some pretty hardcore diets. What kind of stuff have you done personally that you maybe had success with that you liked?
Oh yeah. So the beauty of it is like even when I first started like dieting, getting serious about my fitness, it was I'd say about 13 years ago, 2009. One summer, I just was not liking the body that I had originally in college, and then all of a sudden now, it's like not like I was fat, it's like I was just skinny fat, and then I just started applying myself, and I did a ketogenic diet, and that keto diet, I mean, I kind of modified it to where on the weekends I would have carbs, so I wasn't really, like that angry. But that was like one of the extreme diets. And then later on, I did some very extreme ones that they do with like morbidly obese people. So
Hmm.
not something that, and I had to modify it as well because obviously I didn't have necessarily that much amount of fat. But one thing that I definitely pushed myself through was maybe you probably remember this. I did 100 days straight of squatting every day,
Oh
as
yeah,
heavy as I
yeah,
could. And
yeah.
the whole point was just to like change my central nervous system threshold, because I had seen it, and then I'd probably done something similar to that the year before. It's like back in Miami, and I had done where it was like 4 to 5 days a week I was squatting. And then this time I turned it to 100 days straight. And I was like trying to squat however much I could that day for based on my rate of perceived exertion, RPE, right? And then the thing that I definitely noticed is that's the first time that I ever crossed 190 pounds, bulking up. And then the amount of muscle that I gained, I did gain some fat, but the amount of muscle that I gained once I cut back down, every time now when I cut down, it legitimately makes even athletes ask me what I eat and what I do. So that's
All
definitely
right,
something that it's the mental thing that I got to like challenge myself as one of those.
that's really interesting. So, all right, for 100 days you were squatting. Just so, just so we know, what was the main purpose of that? What do you mean by you were trying to change your central nervous system, or is there another goal for
Uh,
doing that?
yeah, no, central nervous system threshold because when I was like I got better with like dieting and stuff like that. And one of the things that I first started out with was a common training protocol. People sometimes call it just 5 times 5, but it's like Bill Starr, Matt Cow. Like it's like intermediate, like 5 times 5. So I used to do the bench, squat, deadlift, maybe do some accessory where it's like pull-ups and stuff. And like I became kind of mentality wise almost like a power lifter, but like with an Olympic lifter type of like training regimen. So for me, one thing that I used to always notice was like how you be burnt out after doing like deadlifts, or if you do front squats, how you couldn't even touch a bench, you couldn't even do dumbbell presses just because you were going to be so exhausted. So for me, I wanted to do something that for the muscle group that is probably going to be the heaviest would allow me to like add like muscle mass and gain weight,
Oh,
and then
okay.
at the same time, it's like it would make my absolute strength go up, and that's what it
Okay.
did. So like it was like a new form of hypertrophy because I had
Mm.
done hypertrophy, but before I would have to do like just a pig out. I had done like some thing called small off junior, which is just a horrific thing that I did like for my chest, and it's just too much wear and tear. I'm so
Mm.
against like bench press nowadays, but
Really?
it's like we can go into like what I do now is just like I just do gymnastics rings, and then when it comes to like legs, I just do the weights.
Well, yeah, I've definitely seen you on those rings. I remember you taking that in the gym one day. I tried them. I think I
Yeah,
shook. I think I
yeah.
shook more than I pushed myself away from it because
Everybody
it's so
does.
hard. Yeah,
Everybody shakes, man. Everybody shakes.
that was really hard.
Yeah.
So, all right. All right. So you wanted to gain mass really quickly, and it seemed to work for you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you went to 190.
176
Where'd you go? Yeah, it was
from
170.
176 to 192. Like I have it on my Instagram where
Yeah.
you see like the day that I had a belt on, and I think I did like three maybe like 345, like no 360 for one, but I had a belt and I had somebody spotted me 27 days into doing the thing. I was flying from LA, landed in Miami, went to LA Fitness that afternoon, and then I did 365 A to G ass to grass, no belt, three
Hmm.
times. I did like, and I was like, that's when I knew like my it's like my strength was like really going up. And then because
Yeah.
basically all I focused on is just making sure that my calories went up because I was going to need it for recovery. Because when you met
Sure.
me, I had ruptured my Achilles, so I was like coming back from
Mm.
all that. So
Okay.
so that's a thing that really taught me back then to really listen to my body when I be hurting. So
I like that. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, okay. So interesting point. So I guess there you have it. There's an example of you took no rest days for 100.
Mm,
Did you make it the full 100 days?
yeah, I take it. I made it to 101.
You did. Okay.
Yeah,
So
101 days. Like,
all right.
and that's ironically the 101 day. That's the day that I ended up doing that's the day that I ended up doing my starting my YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
and the guy that's with me in it, like he's the one. He had also done like the squat every day challenge.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
so
that's cool because I see you as kind of a less conventional guy, or maybe not because there's probably stuff that you know about working with athletes that I don't know. But I see you doing stuff that is less common
yeah,
in the gym, and so I think that's one of them. So you managed to gain a lot of mass without any rest
yeah,
days. So I think that's really interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the reasoning was is like, well, obviously my friend was also like he and I we would always consult, and we used to work out together in college. So, and then we didn't see each other for probably a good course of like maybe 4 or 5 years, and then I moved to LA, and then we were always around each other. So we're always just picking each other's brain. And one thing we had come across is that we're both skinny guys in college, and we were doing like we were doing like mad cow back then, So we're strong, but we just couldn't really build the mass, and
Hmm.
we were just always reading all this stuff about pyramid training. Ironic, he's actually like calling me right now, but I can't.
You
Can't
gotta
hold
do what
on.
you gotta do.
Like that. But no, no. So like at the time, we used to basically just be like, "Oh, we need to hit volume." And the irony is that when I ruptured my Achilles, I could never get a big chest. It's like because I was pretty lean, and then when I ruptured my Achilles, I was like, well, I can use this period to focus on the volume that I could put
Mm-hmm.
in,
All right.
and I just focus on chest specialization, and I built a big chest. And ever since then, every time I cut down, people are like, "Oh, you're blessed with a good chest." I'm like, "No, I built this
Yeah.
because of hypertrophy, and then
Mm-hmm.
throughout the years, I just applied that to other areas." So,
Wow. Yeah, and then you continue to get size in your chest doing bodyweight stuff, the rings,
mm-hmm,
right? Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Also, kind of maybe less common, less conventional. A lot of people
Oh
might think,
yeah,
"Oh, I got to lift really heavy bench to get a big chest," but you didn't do it that way.
no, no. Like now, I literally just it's I mean, the more experience you have with it, you just start to learn. It's about the angles. It's really not about the like weight so much.
Mm.
Yeah, sometimes you hit a plateau and then you add like a weighted vest or whatever,
Hmm.
but you just really want to. I've always been a foundations individual. Like I used to. You remember? I used to always just like see people at the gym and advice asked for is always ill received. But I used to always give people advice on how they could improve their squat.
Sure.
Not like your squat is terrible, but it's just like, bro, if you actually really learn how to control yourself during the squat or during like a deadlift or
Yeah.
during like a good morning, you're gonna be so much more advanced on a lot of other movements. Like it just kind of like translates over.
What was different about the way you were squatting that was more helpful that you were seeing?
Oh, then you talking about like when I did the squat every day or
No,
like
not that one. Like, let's say
just enjoy?
let's saying you're
Oh,
seeing people
oh,
squat. Is there a third
tempo.
form? Is there a tempo? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tempo because I would just picture myself as that person, and it's like, what was their goal? Like I wouldn't even ask them like, what was their goal? I would actually just see like, okay, they did that movement. What were they trying to do?
Mm-hmm.
And then I would just like see the tempo, and I'm like, oh, okay, they're going for like 10 reps. Okay, they're going 10 reps for a squat, which my understanding like with squats is like once you've got the movement down, you probably shouldn't be doing that much because like the more reps that you're doing on there, the more likely that you're actually going to fatigue the muscles that are going to make it to where your form breaks and stuff like that. So I used to be like, well, you got to keep the reps low. So then I would ask them, what are they trying to do? Sometimes just based off of like how they answer, it's like sales. They literally tell you what they really care about. They
Mm-hmm.
tell you they care about strength,
Mm-hmm.
but they're doing 15, and then you think to themselves, and then you see at the speed they're doing it, and they're like, oh, they think that by doing it fast they're getting more cardio or burning
Right.
more calories, this and that stuff. Oh, okay, well, here's the way that I talk to them. Let me just get them to do something like a cue that'll protect them to where they won't get hurt, but it'll fatigue them faster, and then
Mm-hmm.
they'll feel like, oh man, I don't need to do that much. I'm already getting my butt kicked. And then next thing you know, they're actually getting stronger, safer by just like it's almost like different tricks
Yeah.
because I had to learn that. First, I used to like just quote IMDb. I mean, not IMDb, PubMed.
Okay.
IMDb's
Yeah. But
movies.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
PubMed. I used to just quote PubMed and just
Mm-hmm.
tell people all types of stuff. And when you start doing that, it's all about like I say, it's taking the smart and turning it to rhetoric. You gotta be able to dumb it down a little bit.
Okay. I'm really glad you brought that up, brought tempo up because in my experience, so I work as a personal trainer and
Yeah,
throughout my whole career, that was one thing that nobody even thought about it. People I had worked with,
yeah,
even if they had a trainer before, or especially the beginners, but tempo was not even something they even thought about. Tempo meaning, for whoever's listening to this, the speed at which you're doing a rep in an exercise. So if I'm doing a squat, it's the speed, how fast or slow I'm going down, whether or not there's a pause at the bottom, and how fast or slow I'm going up. I think that's really good that you mentioned that because that is like such an underrated training variable you can put into your routine that will
hmm
change results like massively. And you didn't have to
yeah.
change the move, you didn't have to change the reps. You just change the speed that you're doing. And for a lot of people, it's a great thing to do, not only for
Yeah.
injury prevention if they're doing that right, but their
You know
gains, right?
those guys that are like, huh,
Yeah,
huh, huh, huh.
right.
I just moved 400 pounds super
Yeah,
fast, like, and you see the guy that moved like 225, and they were like nice and controlled, and but that's also where like gymnastics rings, I'm glad I
right.
experienced the weight and the gymnastics rings because then I was able to realize like, oh, this portion of when I'm doing gymnastics rings, it's very similar to when I'm doing with the weights, but the
Hmm.
benefit here is this and that, where it's like on that one, it's like, oh, this is very similar to this, but the benefit is here. So
Hmm.
it's, you can always learn something from so many different approaches.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So I want to touch on, because you worked with athletes. So what's
Yeah.
something a beginner might be able to learn from an athlete's mindset or their routine?
Don't confuse the advanced routines of the athletes for that's the foundational routine. It's really just about like those athletes got to doing that level of routine because of like they've mastered the bottom floor.
Hmm.
So um, the one thing that like if you I'll give like some examples. They always talk about it in sports as fundamentals, right? If you're a basketball player, like your dribbling fundamentals good. Can you run, like a play without having to do iso ball and dribble everybody out? Iso ball sexy, I get it. I
Yeah.
get it, but at the end of the day, the reason why, if you look at even Hall of Famers in like most sports, they played multiple sports, but the reason why they became Hall of Famers is not that they just played at that sport and it was like that was the bread and butter. They got to add a routine by playing multiple sports. Why is that? They could have specialized in being a Hall of Famer. No, if they specialized, they would have just been destroyed by just doing the same thing over and over again, which is like when people overtrain, right? Versus like when they actually played multiple sports, they got to take a break in one area, get decent in another area. Sometimes all you need is just decency in a multitude of areas, and then you build from there. Everybody wants to have like
Okay.
the best power clean ever, and just because they read a study that says power cleans increase this much, it's like, well, you can't deadlift, so why are you even worried about having the best power clean? Like worry about
So
the foundations. Learn to ride the bike like a bicycle first before you get on a motorcycle. Like just
okay. So are you saying if I want faster results, is it a better idea if I master, let's say, my form and different types of movements before I go on to something else? Or how would you put
I
that?
wouldn't. I wouldn't even say before you go to something else because that just makes it sound like it's perfectionist. Then you're gonna create a checklist and you're gonna get in your own way. You're like, well, this is 87% done. I haven't done. No, you need like a passable one that is like we can still improve on this later, but like this allows us to go to the next thing. So,
Okay.
um, so form is good, but the only way you're gonna be better at form is by doing. So if you kill yourself over like I done, my form is terrible and I need now to go do mobility to make sure my form is good. See, now you're trying to find like it's like you sometimes have to do a research diet. So you just say, okay, let me do something enough times. Am I improving? Okay, I'm not improving. Okay, what do I need to change to improve? Then you do it another time. So it's like a study that you're doing, then you're fine tuning as you improve. Because the more experience you have, you're like, oh, this is what I was doing wrong. I was tucking
Mm-hmm.
this in wrong, or I was,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't bracing my core, or I wasn't eating enough, or I wasn't sleeping
Mm-hmm.
enough. But it's like you need to have data. What gets tracked gets measured. So if you want to work on form, record yourself so you look at form, so that later on you
Mm.
can look at form. But don't stress out too much about it. As long as you can measure it, you can improve.
I like that. As long as you
Yeah,
can measure it, you can improve. I
yeah,
100% agree. And I like
yeah.
the idea of recording yourself too. You can see yourself from another perspective. And
Oh,
yeah, that
100%.
helps a lot, right? Yeah.
Or even with dieting. I mean, like I've had clients where, like I teach them how to count calories, but again, that's something that a neurotic person like me would focus on. It's the average
Okay.
person doesn't want to count calories. They don't want to look weird in front
Mm-hmm.
of their friends reading the back of a nutrition label, on like
I do
because
it all the
because
time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because your friends will make
Mm-hmm.
fun of you. They'll just say you're
Mm-hmm.
OCD or whatever because it's shaming because they don't want to see you do better, whatever. But
Mm.
I
Okay.
had to learn that what is one thing that is always going to appeal to us, and that's pictures. So
Mm-hmm.
if if a picture is 1,000 words, like then you writing down like I weigh this much this day, I weigh this other time this day doesn't mean anything nearly as much as you trying to flex as hard as you can in the mirror and you can't see one ab popping.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna hit.
Right.
That's gonna hit home a lot more. And then if you're taking that every week, and now it starts to become a part of your daily thing to the point where you're like, oh, okay, this is how I'm looking. And then the decisions that you make out there, you say, okay, well, am I gonna have like two cafe lattes like today, or am I just gonna have like just one and then call it a day? But as long as you're consistent in measuring, aka taking pictures for yourself, you start to see yourself either improve or get worse, and then you just change it based off of that. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever you can
Right.
measure, it always is.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I think we both worked with people that they know they have to track something to
Oh
see
yeah,
whether or not they're going the right direction. And some people it's they don't want to track their weight and they're
yeah,
okay with pictures. And some people they don't want to see their picture and
yeah,
they're okay with other stuff.
yeah,
So, right? So you want
yeah,
to choose something that you're okay with tracking and just stick to it, right?
yeah.
I like that. Great stuff, man. How do you let's see. All right. So for the fitness people, let's imagine right now you just let yourself go. You get totally out of shape. You're on the couch all day. You lose all your muscle. You start eating junk. What are maybe three things you would do to get yourself back into shape as quickly as possible? What would you do personally?
Tell me.
Yeah,
Uh,
you. Yeah. What would you do if that happened
yeah.
to you? What would you do?
If I like lost shape, well, number one is like I always know like I need to keep track of my calories, right?
All
So,
right.
if I lost shape and I lost muscle, like let's just make it difficult by saying I lost muscle, then I would definitely make sure that I'm like working out, but not crazy working out. I don't need to like be going to the gym 5 times a week. I learned my lesson from rupturing my Achilles.
Mm.
Overuse injuries is because you're
Okay.
not listening to your body. Your hamstring popped because you decided to be more competitive with your best friend when you're when you're doing recreational softball, like, or like you weren't. But if I were to go back to the things, like what first thing I would do is protein and calories if I'm trying to lose weight, like I'm out of shape. But if I'm trying to gain weight, like let's say I lost muscle, I mean, I just basically not nearly as much protein, but just more focus on carbs and like calories.
All right. So in either way, you'd be tracking your calories, right? So
Hmm.
what's your favorite way to do that? How do you? What's an easy way?
My fitness style is
Mm.
maybe my fitness style seems like the best thing for me because when I started counting calories, they didn't have my fitness style yet. That was like
Mm.
2000. Like, or actually, I didn't even have like a smartphone. I didn't even have a
Right.
smartphone, so I didn't even have data to be able to like get my fitness pal. So I
It's
had
so
a
much
no,
easier now.
so I had a notebook
Yeah.
where I got used to writing down foods that I ate regularly, which is measurables, and then I
Mm-hmm.
would just track. Okay, this much turkey is this many calories. So I'm gonna get this brand of turkey, this brand of peanut butter, this brand of
Mm-hmm.
whatever, this brand of bread, and if I take 2 slices, I know that but because I'm sitting there, yeah, it takes a while to like write down. But the way that I offset, that mentality is that I'm trading away. It may take me 15 minutes to write out what I ate today, or maybe take
Mm-hmm.
me 30 minutes. But that 30 minutes once a day can change the rest of the next 60 years of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Yeah.
ingrained it in me now to where sometimes I look at a muffin. If I'm dieting, I overestimate it. I say, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that thing is like 600, even though it might be like 480. And then if I'm like bulking, I underestimate it because at the end of the day, if you're tracking, you'll see where you're going, and then you'll
Right.
change on like those things without being too neurotic.
Yeah.
As somebody that was
You know.
neurotic right now.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a good point. And you know what? For the people that may see that as a waste of time, I don't think it's a waste of time at all.
Yeah,
Every time I see someone stick to it, they get great results.
yeah,
But you know what's a waste of time?
but
Is years and years trying to do something that doesn't work for you. Like, beating a dead horse.
oh, I'm
Excuse the
just gonna
expression,
run
but
cardio. I'm just gonna cardio.
yeah, and you're not being real with yourself that it's not working, and
Yeah,
you're repeating your same old routine that is not getting you anywhere,
yeah,
and that's a waste of time, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I think that works very well too. So okay, so tracking calories. You'd be going to the gym 5 days a week, right? Something like
No,
that.
no,
No, not
no,
5 days a
no,
week.
no,
Oh, okay, so
no,
less than that.
no. Max like 4 days. Max like
Oh,
four
max 4 days.
days.
Okay.
Yeah, max
All
four
right.
days for me. Yeah, because you got to recover. You're stronger during recovery. Like your body is the strongest during recovery.
Did you so did you start believing that after you did this 100-day squat challenge, because that's much different than doing something repetitive for 100
No,
days?
no, no, no. I truly believed it. Like actually, probably the year before when I did like 4 or 5 days a week. Because when I came back from my Achilles injury, I was able to squat almost the same amount of weight.
Mm-hmm.
Ass to grass, like 5 times 315, and then I was able to deadlift just as much, like yeah, just as much weight. I think it was like 450,
Mm-hmm.
and I weighed like 5 pounds less. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized it's because I allowed my body while I was injured. I was like a lot easier on my body, so I just got much stronger. So that's when I started applying that. Where people would just say, actually, it's a funny study that I got to share with you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Where
Sure.
it's like Brad Schoenfield was basically showing that long rest periods actually help in hypertrophy. And the
Yeah.
common thing when I have friends of mine that work out with me, whether in strength and conditioning, whether they're just regular personal trainers or just other people that are just into fitness, they always say my rest periods are too long. And I tell them, you don't understand.
Yeah.
If you are able to recover
Yeah.
100%, I mean,
Yep.
it's like the reason why the top athletes like Barry Bonds that did steroids, like did those numbers is not because the steroids made them see the ball better. It's the steroids made their bodies recover a lot faster on the wear and tear of a season, and that's why they could produce insane numbers. It's because you
Hmm.
don't get tired. So I think about it recovery. So I'm a minimalist, and if I'm stronger by 2% next year at this time, and I don't get
Mm-hmm.
injured versus trying to be 15% in like 3 weeks, but there's a high risk
Right.
of like being injured and never ever touching that again,
Right.
I'll take the
Right.
two
That's a
percent.
win. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rest days, people. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
We got to recover. There's no improvement if you're not recovering. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of any questions you get asked all the time that you have a better answer for now that you've done this for so long? What's something that needs to be addressed right now?
Um, it's just like a good a, like you can never out eat like you can never out train a crappy
A bad
diet.
diet, right?
You can
Knew you were
never
gonna
you
say that.
can never you
Yeah,
can never, bro.
yeah,
You can never. There are times when like
yeah,
I've not been like that serious about like going to work out, but I'm strict on my diet and I'm
yeah,
just perfect all the time. And there are times where I'm just killing it in the
yeah.
gym, but I'm not like really touching on my diet, and it's like
And isn't it like, if your diet's good, you don't have to work as hard, right?
yeah, yeah.
You can get great results. You don't have to work nearly as hard in the gym. It's great.
Absolutely. I mean, you used to see it. I would eat
Mm-hmm.
chicharrones, and people would be like, "How can you do that?" What they didn't know is that the chicharrones bag that I was holding, because I was being neurotic, I had already calculated that into my like my calories, so I knew
Uh huh.
exactly what I was eating. After
Yeah,
that, I was gonna have like Greek yogurt and like
yeah,
and like
yeah.
zero
You were
calorie
very.
sugar sweetener. Yeah,
I remember you being very deliberate about your eating, and
yeah,
but I think obviously it helped you a lot.
yeah.
Um, but yeah,
So
if you
there's
if
that.
mhm.
My bad.
No, you're
There's
good.
that you can't out train a bad diet.
100%.
I guess the thing that is like I wish also people knew is that you gotta take advice from somebody who you would trade places with on that topic. That is the one thing that I would say
Hmm.
like about like it's no disrespect to people that have like the knowledge and the like pedigree and like the different like labels and different like training certifications. But if that person is not willing to show you that they've done it for themselves, you probably should
Hmm.
not be taking advice from them. And
Right.
because a lot of times people will sometimes look at somebody that's in great shape and just say, well, that person's not as smart as me, because they're subconsciously saying that person looks better than me physically, but I'm just gonna say that person's not smarter than me, and I'm just gonna try to tear them down. And I just say, well, it's like a self like fulfilling ego, but also a lot of people do it in fitness. I wish they would just check the ego. Just lose the ego. The second you
Mm-hmm.
lose the ego, you're always gonna make like progress because the ego will tell you, no, I'm the best looking, there is. If there's other people that look better than me, they must be doing something that, like check the ego. Why do you care? And then the second you check the ego, all of a sudden you'll see that what you're driven towards is much more rewarding.
Mm, I like it.
Yeah.
Um, good stuff. I
Yeah.
love what you said about diet today.
Yeah.
And and let's be clear. If anyone knows Cyrus, he knows about dieting. You've done so
Yeah.
many things that, man, you've been really dedicated with your food. It's really
Food
good,
is
man, and it's
food
really
is
done a lot
life,
for you.
man. Food is life,
Food is
man.
life, absolutely. Um, that's all I had as far as like stuff to ask. Is there anything that you feel like you have a good? Is there anything you feel like you have that's useful that I could ask you that you could give an answer to?
um, Nothing, man. It's just mentality. Honestly, I just try to have some portables, just quick ones. Sometimes you can give people gems; they aren't gonna listen to it. I think there was
Mm-hmm.
thing that says it's like books don't change lives like paragraphs do. You know,
What does that mean?
it's like it
How-
just a lot of times people think like that the whole book is what changed their lives, but it's actually
all
like a
right.
line in a paragraph in a book
Yeah.
that like changed a
Right.
life. So it's
One
just
little
like
thing.
so I can just throw like a bunch of lines and paragraphs, but it's like honestly, at the end of the day, it's just like having that mentality. It's like when you come across it, it's gonna click. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's I like that. I don't know if this is exactly what you mean. Maybe this is a little different, but I thought about not doing this, not talking with other experts and letting people see this because I was like, it's all out there. Like it's
yeah,
been said before.
it
But you
is.
know what? It is, but you know what? There are different times people are ready to hear something and there are
Yeah,
different avenues that they might hear it. So if I can give someone and you can give someone a new way of hearing something, that's a
yeah,
good lesson that's already out there, but you said it in a way that they'll receive.
absolutely.
That's valuable, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So I like that a lot.
yeah,
Man, all right. I wish I didn't have to let you go, but
yeah,
I actually want to talk to you again another day because I think
yeah.
you do have a lot of good stuff to say. So, where can people find you these days? Are you on social media? Anything like that?
Yeah, I haven't been that active on social media, but you can find me sports_cy on Instagram. And YouTube, we'll get back to it, but it's also called SportsCy. So
Cool.
pretty
Check them out
simple.
on
Yeah,
YouTube and Instagram. Dude,
yeah,
so great to hang out with you. And thanks for educating me, man. I learned something every time we talk. So, really
yeah.
appreciate it.
Man, thank you for having me. We'll chat
Hey,
again soon.
yeah,
All right,
absolutely. All right, dude.
all
Take
right.
care. See you
Take care.
later.
All right.
Take
Peace.
care, bro.